Tommy Lee Jones ran from a brutal upbringing his entire life. He was beaten by his father. His marriages didn't work out. He pushed people away and drank a lot. At over 80, everything is collapsing. He couldn't remember collaborating with his co-star at a recent film premiere. According to friends, he appeared ill and bewildered. He stayed incognito on his ranch and quit creating movies. The mask is coming off after decades of being the silent, powerful type. Finally, the truth about his tragic last years is out. On September 15, 1946, Tommy Lee Jones was born in San Saba, a small Texas hamlet. There were just roughly 3,000 residents. His family life was chaotic from the beginning. Clyde, his father, was a former cowboy who now worked in the oil fields. Lucille, his mother, was simultaneously a schoolteacher, a police officer, and a doctor. Their union was short-lived. They were married, but they got divorced twice. They were often the subject of conversation throughout town. Tommy watched his parents quarrel, part ways, then return repeatedly. The family moved every time they parted ways. They never lingered in one spot. Things became even more precarious because of Clyde's work in the oil fields. Tommy was reserved and solemn during these formative years. He suppressed his feelings even as a child. However, the situation at home was even worse than what was seen from the outside. His dad was violently angry. Clyde worked 12-hour shifts in the heat when Tommy was little, and he would return home exhausted and intoxicated. Clyde would blow up if Tommy made even the slightest mistake, like dragging mud into their trailer. He would give him a severe beating. When oil prices fell in the early 1950s and Clyde was unemployed for 6 months, the beatings became more severe. Late at night, neighbors at their Midland trailer park heard furniture crash and screaming. Tommy later stated that he experienced a lot of physical abuse as a child. To survive, he had to learn to interpret his father's emotions. He developed the expressionless, blank expression that made him famous in Hollywood. During those early days, when expressing anxiety could exacerbate the situation, everything was altered by an event that occurred one morning in 1954. Clyde was at a drilling site when a pocket of gas blasted out of nowhere. 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. 200 feet was the height of the fireball. 2 men lost their lives. Within 50 yards, equipment melted away. More than 30% of Clyde's body was burned by third-party fire. He was hospitalized for 3 months. At the age of 8, Tommy began taking odd jobs to support his family. That day, 5 males were admitted to the hospital. Within 2 days, 2 of them passed away. In his sleep, Tommy watched his father yell. He learned from the incident that a family's entire world could be destroyed by a single blast. It stayed with him forever. As a result of his parents' turbulent marriage and Clyde's many job transfers, Tommy never spent much time at one school. He had already visited 7 Texas schools by the time he turned 12. He had to start again in every new town, whether it was Midland, Sabinal, or Rowton. He went from receiving A's to receiving C's at Midland's Robert E. Lee High School. Children from wealthy households denigrated him. He was large, yet he had little, 6', 200 lb, and fought back with that size. As if he had something to prove, he joined the football squad and played. His blows were too forceful. He was suspended occasionally. On the field, however, he was unbeatable. His father found a well-paying job in Libya when he was 13 years old. Tommy, however, remained in Texas. He had won a scholarship to one of the best institutions in the state, Street Mark School in Dallas. He returned to working alongside his father on the oil rigs during the summers at the age of 16. The temperatures frequently reached 110 during the 14-hour shifts. It was a risky job. He cleaned up poisons, operated heavy drills, and stood close to devices that might instantaneously kill a man. He witnessed a Sea Orca lose 3 fingers in front of him in 1962. The drill floor was covered with blood. It took 45 minutes for help to arrive. Tommy earned $3 that summer, $50 per hour. He developed persistent calluses and dropped 25 pounds. The platform adjacent to him was crushed one day when a 500-pound drill bit came away. He almost died. He learned grit, discipline, and pain from those years. He would never forget the fuel scent or the sense of impending death. Tommy Lee Jones received a scholarship to Harvard in 1965. B12 in Murr Hall was his first room. Al Gore, the future vice president, resided across the hall. They stayed together for the entire 4 years after becoming housemates. Bob Summerby, who would later establish a media watchdog website, also resided with them. Al Gore and Tommy remained up late debating politics and literature. Decades passed during that relationship. Tommy spoke at the 2000 Democratic National Convention on behalf of Gore. Tommy assisted in hosting the concert when Gore was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He earned a degree in English literature in 1969. He claimed that Harvard taught him how to learn. And the core of acting, he claimed, was learning. He played football at Harvard as well. His uniform number was 61. He played offensive guard for the unbeaten 1968 squad and was 6 and 200 lbs. A legendary game marked the end of the season. In 1968, Harvard played Yale on November 23. With 42 seconds remaining, the score was 29-13. Harvard knotted the game 29-29 after scoring twice. Tommy was on the field when that last miracle occurred, and the headline in the school newspaper the following day read, "Harvard beats Yale 2,929. In 2008, a documentary was made about the game because it was so well known. Tommy stood in Dunster House once more to speak during a screening of it in 2010. Tommy was involved in the Harvard theater scene as well. People were taken aback by how unvarnished and visceral his performance in Coriolanus was. For years, students and professors discussed it. Even then, it was obvious that he possessed a unique quality. He began a decades-long friendship with John Lithgow in 1967 when they co-starred in The Ladies. Not for burning. He claimed that college was the best creative thing that had ever occurred to him when he was awarded the Harvard Arts Medal in 2012. Following graduation, he relocated to New York. A Patriot for Me, which Harold Pinter directed, was his first professional play. That was back in 1969. He starred in Blue Boys, Ulysses in Nighttown, 4 on a Garden, Fortune and Men's Eyes, and more throughout the ensuing years. He took a solid job as doctor in the soap opera, One Life to Live in Order to Pay the Bills. From 1971 to 1975, Mark Tolan. In 1970, he starred in his debut motion picture, Love Story. Although he had a little role, it garnered him attention. The main character in the movie was partially modeled by Tommy and Al Gore, who had served as inspiration for screenwriter Eric Siegel while he was a Harvard student. The movie received 7 Oscar nominations and earned over $130 million. A year after Hughes's death, in 1977, Jones starred in a 2-part television film called The Amazing Howard Hughes. From young genius to broken recluse, he portrayed Hughes. According to some, it was the most realistic version ever captured on camera. Jones was flawless in every way, including the voice and demeanor. He played a quiet, injured Vietnam veteran in Rolling Thunder that same year. He was deemed spectacular by critics. He played a detective pursuing a murderer through a world of brutal fashion photography in the 1978 film Eyes of Laura Mars. The film became a cult favorite and earned $20 million. He played a race car driver who was constructing a new car during the energy crisis in the Betsy that same year. Tommy's heart, however, remained in Texas. On 55 acres near San Saba, he constructed a polo ranch that included an arena, an exercise track, and 48 horse stalls. For more than 15 years, he donated money and horses to Harvard's polo squad. Boot camp was the term used by the students who trained at his property. In 2013, he sold the 50-acre Florida polo farm he had purchased for $2,675 million. Glamour didn't matter to him. Because cowboys played polo on rocky terrain during droughts, he did the same. He was that person. In 1980, Tommy Lee Jones's portrayal of Doolittle Lynn in Coal Miner's Daughter marked the beginning of something significant. Despite being filmed for only $15 million, the film is based on the real life of country music queen Loretta Lynn, brought in over $67 million at the box office. Although Jones received his first Golden Globe nomination, SpaceX took home the Best Actress Oscar. The plot felt more authentic because the entire film was filmed in Kentucky and Tennessee. Intense bar scenes left viewers wondering if things were difficult off camera as well. However, no one ever verified anything. The Library of Congress selected the movie for the National Film Registry in 2019, some 40 years later, citing its significance to American history and culture. Then, in 1983, Tommy portrayed one of his most sinister characters to date. In the terrifying television film, The Executioner Song, he played Gary Gilmore, who was based on a genuine guy who had murdered 2 people and demanded to be put to death. For that role, Jones received an Emmy. Norman Mailer, who also wrote the novel, wrote the film, which told the story in 4 hours. To ensure every detail was perfect, the film's crew spoke with more than 120 people. Although Jones's method acting was so severe that some people thought he had overdone it, there was never any evidence that he was endangering his health for the part. In the 1986 film, The Park Is Mine, he occupied Central Park. In order to highlight the poor treatment of veterans, he portrayed a Vietnam veteran who transformed the park into a battlefield. Before passing away, his companion had left behind plans and weaponry, and Jones's character made his point by using it all. The action sequences and Tangerine Dream soundtrack made the plot seem like it was from a Rambo movie. Although there were large explosions, there were no reports of injuries on the set. He directed and performed in the television western, The Good Old Boys, in 1995. For him, it was more than just another role. His future wife, Dawn Laurel, was the person he met there. Dawn was a 31-year-old camera assistant at the time, and he was 49 and still married to someone else. During the movie, they began dating, and on March 19, 2001, they were married in Texas. Rumors circulated that the film ran $500,000 over budget, but nothing was verified, and some critics felt it was too much of a vanity effort. Jones portrayed an assassin and prisoner entangled in a Cold War conspiracy in the 1989 film. The timing was bad since the Berlin Wall fell 3 months later, making the entire idea seem out of date. He filmed scenes in challenging circumstances and collaborated with Gene Hackman. However, there were no official reports of injuries or language training pushing him too far, despite several people saying it was cold and difficult. He won a major Oscar for The Fugitive in 1993. He defeated Leonardo DiCaprio and other actors to win the award for Best Supporting Actor for his portrayal as Deputy U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard. Globally, the film earned around $370 million. It was not his performance, however, that was shocking. Harrison Ford had experienced it. During a chase in the woods, Ford tore his ACL, but he continued filming without notifying anyone. He continued to perform his own stunts, despite having a ruptured disc in his back. Failed pyrotechnics forced a reshoot of that iconic Dang Leap moment, and each time, Ford was in genuine anguish. Jones released Natural Born Killers in 1994. He played a jail warden who was so outrageous that Oliver Stone, the director, had to battle the MPAA to keep the film from receiving an NC-17 classification. Studio executives were incensed after the performance, which was full of unplanned tirades. Scene after scene had to be trimmed by Stone before they were finally given an R rating on August 26, 1994. The movie was later criticized for inciting violence in real life, and was named one of the most divisive movies ever made. Batman Forever followed in 1995. Things become unsightly under the gaudy, deceptive makeup. Carrey had recently emerged as Hollywood's comedy king, but Jones didn't want anything to do with his style. So when Jim Carrey approached him at a restaurant, Jones told him directly, "I hate you. I cannot sanction your buffoonery." Joel Schumacher, the director, had to preserve the film because the two hardly got along when it was being made. According to Carrey, the experience felt very real, but strangely intimate. Jones made a comedic and action-packed comeback in Men in Black, 1997, but not without mayhem. He repeatedly accidentally hurt camera assistants and broke props. They had to remove the neuralizer from his hands at the last minute, according to director Barry Sonnenfeld. Additionally, he ruined takes without even realizing it, by making odd sound effects while feigning to fire. And in one scene, Will Smith farted so horribly that Jones nearly fainted as he was in a vehicle shell 15 feet in the air. Nevertheless, the film launched an entire franchise and made close to $590 million. Jones insisted on performing all of his own stunts in a frigid river during the 1999 season of Double Jeopardy. Despite being 56 at the time, he didn't want a double because he had trained with the FBI for the position. He almost drowned in one scene after becoming caught beneath the ocean. He had to be rescued by the crew. Despite the close call, the film managed to earn $177 million. Jones arranged and made the 3 funeral arrangements for Melquiades Estrada in 2005. The actual murder of a teenager close to the border served as the inspiration for this somber movie. Jones spent 2 years preparing, studying Spanish, and collaborating closely with CAM's Best Script winner, Guillermo Arriaga. There, Jones also won Best Actor. Despite earning less than $10 million, it demonstrated how much Jones valued art more than box office performance. Jones portrayed Sheriff Ed Tom Bell in the 2007 film, No Country for Old Men. In addition to earning $171 million, the The film took home 4 Oscars, including Best Picture. Jones's closing speech on feeling outmatched by evil in particular gave the movie its heart and weight. Knowing that he could convey more with quiet than others could with words, the Coen brothers penned the part specifically for him. He was starring as an executive in The Company Men by 2010, which was a drama about losing one's job following the 2008 financial crisis. Jones's character had started the business from the beginning, and now had to see the dismissal of devoted workers. His poignant performances captured the struggles that actual people were facing at the time. The film was shot during a period of genuine economic instability and had a $15 million budget. Because the real Thaddeus Stevens suffered alopecia, Jones played Stevens in the 2012 film Lincoln, while sporting a large, synthetic black wig. Spielberg refused to let Jones shave his eyebrows as well. Jones spent months researching Stevens' life and giving ferocious speeches. His speeches on abolishing slavery were among the most impactful parts of the movie. He returned to directing and acting in The Homesman by 2014. He and Hilary Swank played 2 individuals who were escorting women with mental illnesses through perilous border regions. In contrast to Westerns, the film addressed issues like mental illness and depicted the cruelty of pioneer life. The picture, which had a $16 million budget, was shot in the harsh New Mexico weather, complete with actual horses and wind. Jones portrayed CIA Director Dway in the 2016 film Jason Bourne, who had given the order to kill Bourne's father. Jones appeared worn out, according to critics, despite the film earning $415 million. There had been numerous rewrites of the script, and in some of them he simply didn't want to be there. His visage resembled the Grand Canyon, according to one reviewer. A year later, he portrayed a genuine journalist in the movie Shock and Awe, which was about reporters who questioned the statements made by the U.S. government before to the Iraq War. The movie demonstrated how these reporters were the only ones who accurately reported the story. Jones portrayed Joe Galloway, and the film was guided by the actual journalists to maintain its accuracy. During filming, they were even on the set. Jones portrayed Brad Pitt's father, an astronaut who went missing near Neptune, in the 2019 advertisement for Ad Astra. With the use of physical effects and zero-gravity training, the film attempted to be as realistic as feasible. Jones remained more in the background as Pitt underwent nauseating training. The film received a nomination for Outstanding Sound Mixing and earned $135 million. He portrayed a conspiracy theorist who co-hosted a podcast with a neurotic investigator in 2020's Wander. Chip implantation, border surveillance, and MKUltra were discussed in the movie. Even though more than 10,000 IMDb users gave it a poor rating of 4.9 out of 10, Jones gave his scenes substance. Additionally, at the Finest Kind premiere in 2023, an odd incident occurred. "Did we have any scenes together?" Jones questioned Jenna Ortega, who was standing next to him, and she had to gently remind him that they did. After the video went viral, many began to question whether the 77-year-old actor was experiencing memory problems. 2 days prior to the movie's premiere, it was a silent and uneasy occasion. Although Tommy Lee Jones never sought attention, rumors about him began to circulate over time. Some were whispered half-truths, some were factual, and some no one could fully verify. There isn't any concrete evidence to support the most widespread web claim that he declined roles in Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robbins was given the role after Tom Hanks rejected Shawshank because he was working on Forrest Gump. Actors like Lawrence Fishburne and Michael Madsen gave up important parts in Pulp Fiction. However, unlike what some people may assert online, Tommy Lee Jones was never formally associated with either movie. Then there was the allegation that he had to discreetly pay a $100,000 lawsuit after punching a stuntman on the set of Under Siege. Again, however, there are no concrete records that attest to that. In 1992, Under Siege was released. It was a huge success and increased Steven Seagal's notoriety. It also featured Tommy Lee Jones. As intense as usual, however, none of the official records mentioned the alleged punch and payout. Nothing like that was ever stated by anybody involved with the production. There were no known issues with the film's production, wrapping, or release. Another legend claimed that after a confrontation with Jones, Samuel L. Jackson almost left the set of The Sunset Limited. The movie was released in 2011. Only 2 performers, Jones and Jackson, were seated in a small, silent room discussing life and death. It was directed by Jones. Interviews conducted at the time contradict the claims made by certain online users that Jackson wanted to leave because of artistic disagreements. Jackson has stated that the script's profound philosophical concepts made it one of his most difficult roles, not because there was any drama. The two men were respectful of one another. There was no fight, no walkout. Strange rumors circulated that Jones delayed Men in Black 2 because he fractured his arm playing polo in the early 2000s. Ledoux, but there's no evidence to support that. Filming began in June 2001, and the movie was released in theaters in 2002. The 9/11 attacks were the actual cause of the delays. Scenes in the movie were set in New York, thus some parts had to be altered. It was unrelated to polo. Despite Jones's history of polo injuries, which included a severe fall in 1998 that rendered him unconscious, none of them prevented him from working on Men in Black. However, there is one true story from the 1986 Black Moon Rising set. Jones was drinking a lot at the time. Actor Linda Hamilton later claimed that this is why she detested working with him. She didn't mince words. She said that everything was impacted by his drinking. Jones never discussed his reasons for drinking in public throughout those years. The results were visible to others on site, but he kept that aspect of his life hidden. He was still attempting to establish his cinematic career at the age of 40. For him, both personally and professionally, it was a low point. Jones experienced a number of storms in his personal life. On New Year's Eve of 1971, he wed Kate Lardner. She was the granddaughter of Ring Lardner, a well-known author. She sacrificed her acting career to help Tommy, and she had 2 children from a previous marriage. But everything collapsed by 1978. According to the February 9th divorce papers, he was too preoccupied with his job. He didn't spend much time with the family, according to Kate. The couple was married for just over 6 years. Following the breakup, Kate began reviving her career and eventually found work as a sound editor in the motion picture industry. In 1981, he remarried to Kimberly Coughley, a photographer he had met while working on Back Roads. They had 2 kids. Victoria was born in 1991, and Austin was born in 1982. However, allegations began to circulate in 1993, while The Fugitive was being filmed. Affair was discussed in whispers. When tabloids reported that he had a relationship with Jessica Lange during Blue Sky the next year, things became even worse. In 1996, Kimberly filed for divorce. The court awarded her continuous support, a sizable financial compensation, and complete custody of the children. Jones's emotional outburst during the custody negotiations was shocking. He did not want to be cut off from his children. The couple was married for over 15 years. While filming The Good Old Boys in 1995, he got to know Dawn Laurel. They clicked immediately as she was working behind the camera. He was still married at the time, but his marriage was coming to an end. By 1998, they appeared in public as a couple. They then privately got married in Texas on March 19, 2001. A portion of the property was even designed for them by her sister. However, everything changed in 2024. Online rumors said that Dawn had received a terrible diagnosis. Although it hasn't been verified, Jones abruptly left his job. According to reports, at the age of 78, he expressed his desire to remain near Daybreak on their 30,000-acre Texas ranch. He owned more than just the land. He purchased a 55-acre polo ranch in San Saba in 2002, complete with a professional-level field and 48 horse stalls. However, a horrible occurrence occurred in 2010, when a visitor suffered serious injuries during a polo play and filed a $2.3 million lawsuit against him. The visitor cited inadequate horse care and hazardous conditions. Jones retaliated. Because polo was inherently dangerous, the court decided in his favor. Nevertheless, he was had to pay more than $400,000 in legal fees. He had his own terrifying experience in 1998, when a horse tripped and knocked him off at another property close to Houston. He was stepped on by the horse. After fainting, he was taken to the hospital. He returned 2 days later to watch his squad from the sidelines. He avoids drawing attention to his children. Austin has one acting role in Jones's 2014 movie, The Homesman, as a banjo musician. He contributed to the soundtrack behind the scenes as well. He then gave from acting to focus entirely on music. Perpetual Doom, a minor label, released his albums Deadcom in 2022 and At the Polo Club in 2023. Additionally, he composed music for movies such as Metamorphosis Junior Year and Fanta. Victoria also played a few minor parts. At the age of 11, she appeared in Men in Black 2, and then in Melquade Estrada's 3 Burials. Jones even dismissed her off a set once for failing to arrive on time. The crew had to intervene and restore order. By December 2023, concerns were growing. Jones appeared bewildered and agonizingly thin at the Finest Ken premiere. Friends were taken aback. His eyes appeared sunken, and he even forgot that they had a role together, and asked Jenna Ortega whether they had acted together in the movie. Jenna reminded him gently. The video became viral. People started to question if it was memory loss. Was he ill? The rumors blew up in 2025. He had cancer, according to some. No formal declaration was ever made, although others speculated that it might be Alzheimer's or another disease. Particularly when it comes to his health, Jones has always been secretive. But people feared the worst because of the way he spoke, how he appeared, and how abruptly he stopped acting. His financial situation also suffered greatly. He received $105 million for the sale of his Wellington, Florida, Polo estate in 2019. Although that may seem like a lot, in 2013 he listed it for $26.75 million. That is a loss of $15.8 million. Over time, he acquired portions of the property. 2002 saw $2.95 million. 2003 saw $1.1 million. And 2012 saw an additional $550,000. It had everything. Despite having a staff home, 2 polo fields, and numerous stalls, it didn't sell. He yet retained his enormous 3,000-acre Texas ranch. Includes its entire cattle business, 50 horses, and 150-year-old house. Jones still has an estimated net worth of $100 million in 2025, despite all the ups and downs. Movies like Men in Black, The Fugitive, and No Country for Old Men helped him earn it. In addition, he wrote, produced, and directed. At the San Sebastian Film Festival in 2012, he received the Dynastia Lifetime Achievement Award, which recognized his decades of work and more than 70 films. He was still robust and energetic when he received that honor. He remains largely silent on his property, away from Hollywood, and is nonetheless revered, feared, and mysterious.